Chapter 2306 Tianhai Integration 1. Zhang Yi and his companions rested for a day in Blizzard City. The next day, Zhang Yi called Bailey Chongqing. Today, Bailey Chongqing, Wu Di, and others have completely joined Zhang Yi's team. Including their families, they were all moved to the living area of Zhang Yi's team. Zhang Yi was too lazy to even tell Zhuzheng about this, and instead asked Bailey Chongqing to greet Zhuzheng himself. This is just a formality, everyone knows it, and Zhuzheng certainly won't stop it. Today, Bailey Chongqing's ability index is 9,999 points, and he is only one step away from Ypsilon. After joining Zhang Yi's team and becoming an instructor of the Fuying Force, he also enjoyed the benefits of the centipede's origin. He has long been loyal to Zhang Yi. Calling Bailey Chongqing, Zhang Yi began to assign him tasks. Bailey, the crisis in the Wulwan Empire has been resolved. We can't live in Blizzard City forever, so you should take some people and mechanical life forms back with you and begin rebuilding Tianhai City. Hearing Zhang Yi say this, Bailey Chongqing's brows immediately lit up with joy. Yes, I'll do it right away. In Bailey Chongqing's opinion, Zhang Yi's personal strength and the strength of the entire team are now enough to have a regional-level force. How is it possible to stay in Blizzard City all the time? If Zhang Yi wasn't too lazy to take care of things, he would have deserved to be the supreme commander of the Jiangnan region. Zhang Yi knocked on the armrest of the sofa and said to him, "We should learn our lesson this time. We can't let them destroy our city with a tsunami like before. So, I have a few requirements for the construction of Tianhai City this time." He raised a finger. First, we need to use better materials, and each building must be fully enclosed. This way, whether we encounter a tsunami or artillery attack, we can maximize the survival of residents. The houses where core technical personnel live must also be equipped with anti-superpower shield modules. Don't worry about the materials. There are plenty of them among the supplies harvested by the Wulwan Empire. There's no need to be fussy. Just use whatever you want. Bailey Chongqing was recording every word Zhang Yi said clearly. He also compiled a collection of Zhang Yi's speeches and listened to them every day before going to bed to refresh his mind and deepen his admiration for Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi held up a second finger. Secondly, there must be an absolutely safe underground shelter beneath the city. While the previous work was good, this crisis still exposed many problems. For example, there are too few entrances and the area is not large enough. This makes it difficult to escape when a crisis occurs. Bailey Chongqing nodded, looking as if he was taking it seriously to heart. As for the third point, it is also the most important one. Zhang Yi crossed his fingers and said to Bailey Chongqing seriously, "I want Tianhai City to be one." When Bailey Chongqing heard this, he couldn't help but ask, "One body?" There are now more than 70,000 residents in Tianhai City. In addition, Zhang Yi treats them well and does not let them squeeze into pigeon cages, so the living area is very large. In addition, there are places for leisure and entertainment and even markets. The original urban area of Tianhai City was centered on Tianhai Fortress, with a radius of 10 kilometers. It is extremely difficult to transform such a large area into an integrated building. Zhang Yi nodded. "Yes, this way, if there is a need for an emergency transfer one day, I can take the entire city into my alien space." Zhang Yi expressed his plan. Zhang Yi, who has now reached the level of Black Bishop, can open the door of the other dimension very widely, and the space inside is extremely huge. It is entirely possible to incorporate a village-level area. After Bailey Chongqing pondered for a moment, he said seriously, "I understand. Please rest assured, I will complete the construction of this new Tianhai City as quickly as possible." Integrated construction sounds difficult, but it only takes a little more time to implement. With the help of the mechanical army and various aliens, building this city will not take too much effort. Zhang Yi smiled and asked him, "How long do you plan to finish the construction?" Bailey Chongqing stroked his stubbled chin and said, "It should be finished in 2 months." Zhang Yi shook his head. "It's been too long." Bailey Chongqing said somewhat awkwardly, "Supreme, I'm not trying to be evasive. But if we follow your request, It will take at least a month and a half at the earliest. Zhang Yi smiled and waved his hand. You didn't understand what I meant. I mean, who told you to do it yourself? He pointed his chin outward. Spread the word that I'm planning to rebuild Tianhai City. Then people will be eager to help. Bailey Chongqing's eyes suddenly lit up, and he understood. People from the 6 districts are now vying to curry favor with Zhang Yi, but they just don't have the opportunity. Now that the news has been released, they will surely rush over to help after receiving so many material benefits. I understand, Supreme. Don't worry, I'll have the new Tianhai City built in at most half a month. Zhang Yi smiled and nodded. Then go ahead and get busy. I'm waiting for your good news. Bailey Chongqing walked out of the place where Zhang Yi was resting. Before he could do anything, several people came over as soon as he left the house. Bailey Chongqing took a closer look and saw that all the high-level aliens from various regions were there. The captain of the Sea Dragon Guard in the East China Sea region, the monk leader in the Southwest region, old friend Tu Yunlai in the Jiangnan region, the 36 celestial beings in the Shengjing region, Lu Xian in the Northeast region, and a captain-level alien in the Northwest region. They crowded around enthusiastically. Isn't this Brother Bailey? What a coincidence. The battle with the Wulwan Empire, your heroic presence has always been etched in my mind. I've always wanted to have a drink with you. Come on. It's my treat today. Let's not leave until we're drunk. I said, do you understand first come first served? I was the first one to come here, so you should queue up behind me. Humph, this place is definitely in the Jiangnan region. Tu Yunlai, I'm a close friend of Captain Bailey, so all of you please step back a bit. A group of people rushed to invite Bailey Chongqing to drink. This scene made Bailey Chongqing understand why Zhang Yi said that. Sure enough, when a person has great power, he will be surrounded by good people, and everyone will do their best to help you. Bailey Chongqing smiled and said, since everyone is here, it's rare for us to get together, so let's have a couple of drinks together. That's great. Let's go. Let's not go home until we're drunk. Chapter 2307 Tianhai Integration 2. The reconstruction of Tianhai City was left to Bailey Chongqing. The reason why Zhang Yi did not trouble his family and ask Lu Karen and others to handle it was because they were also very busy now. First of all, everyone gained powerful alien origins in this battle. Some are enjoyed alone, while others are shared with others, but the harvest is very rich. However, it takes a lot of time to absorb and transform those powerful alien origins. The second aspect is that after conquering the Ulyan Empire, there are still many things to be completed. For example, Zhou Qi needs to conduct body slice research on Zheng Lu, Emperor Ce, and other royal family members. Analyze whether the genes of these nobles of the Wulwan Empire contain elements that can help human growth. In addition, you have to crack the code to control the armor of the end. That's right, it was the super mecha that Emperor Ce intended to use to launch a Jedi counterattack at the last moment. It's a pity that he lost before he could control the mecha. Although Yang Xinxin did not have the opportunity to witness the power of the armor of the end, the dense and insoluble power of resentment and hope of countless undead souls on it made her know that this was an extremely terrifying weapon. If used properly, it will play a significant role in the future. On the other hand, Zhou Qi also needs to study the growth process of the human embryo and at what point in time the spirituality is born. That is, the point in time when ether fragments enter the life forms in the material world from the higher dimensional space. After thoroughly studying this, there may be a chance in the future to exploit large-scale card bugs and steal power from the etheric realm. Except Zhou Qi, no one else was idle either. Yang Xinxin had to make an overall plan for the borders of the entire Wulwan Empire. How to reasonably divide the huge underground world into 6 major areas and then reserve the best position for yourself. Moreover, how to transform the underground world so that humans can survive in it is a long-term plan that is difficult to complete in a short period of time. Lu Karen became even busier. After the last war, more than 20,000 mechanical life forms were damaged. These were all Lu Karen's treasures. Even though the war was won, she still felt heartbroken. Now she is leading a large number of working mechanical life forms, rushing to repair them and upgrade them. That's right, it's an upgrade. In the past, Zhang Yi was short of energy. Although he had materials such as yuanshi, he still used a large amount of fossil fuels for energy. Due to energy shortages, the performance of mechanical life forms cannot be fully utilized. But now that he has seized the resources of the Wulwan Empire, the resources in Zhang Yi's hands have reached a terrifying astronomical figure. He certainly will not be stingy with these war machines. Liu Karen will comprehensively upgrade their energy modules to enable them to exert their best combat power. According to Liu Karen's speculation, if these 50,000 mechanical life forms have sufficient energy, each one can exert combat capabilities comparable to those of an alien, with more than 9,000 points. Zhang Yi couldn't help but feel refreshed whenever he thought about the scene of 50,000 captain-level mechanical life forms charging forward collectively in the future. So, he also encouraged Liu Karen to work hard and not worry about other things for the time being. Yang Xie, Zhou Haimei, and others were responsible for helping them and making delicious, nutritious meals to replenish their energy. Speaking of which, Yang Xie's ability index has reached the limit of Delta. The food she prepared was not only delicious, but also served as a stimulant for the military camp. Not only can it keep people awake at work, but it also does not produce any side effects. It is simply a magical weapon exclusively for cattle and horses. If we talk about who is idle, Fatty Sue and Liangyang have nothing to do, but Zhang Yi doesn't expect this fat man to be able to help with any big things. The two of them and Uncle Yu maintain the daily operations of Tianhai City and handle some trivial matters. For the next period of time, Huashu Kingdom was peaceful and prosperous with no war. According to the agreement, Zhang Yi gave a portion of the massive resources in the alien space to each major region. Although those supplies were only a small part of what he had, the 6 major districts had to send out huge ice and snow trains and large F-37 transport aircraft to transport them one by one. In recent days, there has been a constant flow of traffic in Blizzard City, and the airport has been running day and night. It took more than half a month to transport all the supplies back. And what is Zhang Yi doing? He went into seclusion. It's in the basement at the bottom of Tianhai Fortress. He locked himself in a huge underground space. Now, he finally has time to withdraw from the state of war. After the battle, he found that his body had been shaking for several days. Not out of fear, but out of excessive excitement. He defeated a night-level warrior head-on, and during the fight with Xinglu, he truly realized how terrifying an alien who inherited the memory of an ancient civilization and possessed high-level supernatural powers was. What is their fighting style? That ability to control supernatural powers far exceeded Zhang Yi's understanding. Zhang Yi didn't even have the slightest doubt that if he and Xinglu were at the same level of supernatural power, if he didn't have Ling's human body and the demon armor, then he would definitely have no choice but to escape. He gained a lot from this battle. Looking back, he repeatedly played the images recorded by the demon god armor's intelligence system during the battle and watched Xinglu's fighting posture over and over again. The ability to grasp the timing of attack and the control over supernatural powers. There were no lights on in the huge underground space, and the 1,000-square-meter sports field was pitch black. Only Zhang Yi was sitting cross-legged in the empty space, with the lights above his head projecting a spherical area of light and shadow. In front of him, the projection was several hundred inches wide, and every movement and every muscle exertion of Xinglu was clearly visible. Zhang Yi was full of respect for this powerful enemy. His eyes were fixed on Xinglu's shadow. At the same time, the divine power wrapped around his right hand began to slowly change. The dark void power surged out from his body and was then greedily absorbed by Xin Lian. This semi-mechanical weapon, based on Boss's sword in the tree, has the ability to change its shape at will. Clatter. In the video, Xinglu's binding chains emerged like an overwhelming force, covering the sky in an instant. In reality, the sound of chains could also be heard beside Zhang Yi's hands. Clatter. The pitch-black divine chain extended out, wrapped around his arms, and spread to his fingers. Twisting, entwining, swirling, hardening into sharp thorns, changing in 1,000 ways, adapting to one's wishes. Zhonglu, your chains belong to me. Zhang Yi felt inexplicably inspired. He raised his right hand and looked at the chains flowing like water on his palm, with a smile on his lips. Chapter 2308 Tianhai Integration 3. The Huashu Kingdom defeated the Wulwan Empire. From the preparation to the end of the war, half a year passed in a flash. The whole world was originally paying attention to the movements of Huashu Kingdom, but all they saw was Huashu Kingdom's intensive military training, but they did not see them launching a large-scale offensive from the East China Sea. Even the battle that ended that night was conducted quietly. So no one knows what happened in Huashu Kingdom. Many countries believed that the Huashu Kingdom was ultimately far inferior to the Wulwan Empire in strength, so they chose to be tolerant. The operation of this world is never determined by individual will. While they were preparing for battle, wonderful stories were happening in every corner of the world. Shortly after Zhang Yi and his team returned, Britannia, the once mighty empire in Eastern Europe, also welcomed their heroes. Led by King Arthur himself, this time the entire Knights of the Round Table set out for the third expedition to the ruins of Atlantis under the deep sea. This time they returned, looking more disheveled than ever before. Except for the 12 members of the Knights of the Round Table, their leader Arthur Pendragon and the chief magician Merlin, more than half of the other inhuman warriors brought with them were killed in the battle. Even King Arthur had his arm broken, and his armor was in tatters. But after they came back, there was no sign of decadence or frustration, but pride was written all over their faces. Because of this expedition, they successfully reached the third level of the ruins. And this time, it was also the first time that they fought against the giant creatures under the deep sea of Atlantis. A giant sea serpent of bishop level. They gathered the strength of the entire Knights of the Round Table and eventually repelled them. Although they didn't kill it, this record was enough to make them proud. King Arthur returned to his palace and sat on his throne with a red velvet back. After returning, Merlin immediately asked the medical department to send the best inhuman to repair his broken arm. Although there were pure knights like a given in the Knights of the Round Table, the losses in that battle were too great. She single-handedly saved the lives of the entire Knights of the Round Table, having spent almost everything she had. After all, the deep-sea operation lasted for 3 months, and the supplies they carried were limited, so they could only evacuate after the supplies ran out. A medical team soon arrived and examined each of them. When the breastplate of Rebel Knight, Mordred, was opened, the medical-type aliens in front of him couldn't help but gasp, because there was a long claw deeply embedded in his chest. The claw was trapped by Mordred's muscles, so not much blood flowed out. But if it was pulled out, blood would definitely spurt out on the spot. Quick, quick, use your power to seal the blood vessels around the wound first. Then pull out the foreign object. Mordred's face was pale, and he sat on the chair and let them do whatever they wanted. Even though King Arthur was injured, he still looked calm and composed when he sat on the throne with a king's smile on his face. Standing next to him was a middle-aged man wearing an elegant suit and with his hair neatly combed. He stood aside with his hands behind his back, a gentleman's polite smile on his face, looking down at King Arthur. This is his uncle, Sebastian Levent, the Minister of the Interior of Britannia, and now one of the powerful figures in the top leadership of Britannia. Arthur, are you okay? Sebastian asked with a smile, his cold blue eyes showing a hint of concern, but his expression was a little distant. I'm good, and I'll be better, King Arthur said with a smile, allowing the nurse to inject various drugs into him. And his broken arm slowly grew back with the treatment of a senior medical expert. Puff. New flesh and blood grew from the broken part, bursting out directly from the original wound. The scene looked extremely bloody, and anyone who was timid would probably faint from fear. But there was no extra expression on King Arthur's face. In 4 years of fighting, how could I not be injured? He has developed a strong adaptability to pain. Unfortunately, regeneration of flesh and blood is not an easy task. This seemingly bloody regeneration ritual needs to last at least 10 minutes. A strange look flashed in Sebastian's eyes. Your strength has been greatly improved again? King Arthur smiled and said, Uncle Sebastian, what happened outside during the past few months when I was away? King Arthur turned his head to look at Sebastian and he emphasized, is there any movement in Huashu Kingdom? Having been defeated by Jangi before, King Arthur paid close attention to Jangi's movements. Sebastian stood with his hands behind his back, speaking calmly. There hasn't been much movement from the Huashu Kingdom. For the past 5 months, the Wulwan Empire has not stopped harassing them. However, the Huashu Kingdom didn't offer much counterattack. There was only one incident where chaos sent over the bodies of several silver-armored generals from the Wulwan Empire. Since then, the tense situation has finally subsided. And until today, no new conflict has broken out. King Arthur leaned his head against the throne. He suddenly sighed and said, that means chaos has been wasted for a full 6 months. This regret does not seem fake. It seems that he really feels sorry for Jangi. There are only 2 ways for aliens to improve their strength. First, look inward and tap into your potential, but this approach has its limits. The second is to constantly hunt down those with powerful abilities and seize their origins. Once you stop fighting and plundering, your strength will stagnate, no matter how talented you are. Sebastian looked at him. What about you? King Arthur smiled casually, supporting his face with his only remaining left hand, and said lightly, I'm now at 42,000 points, a Black Bishop level in human. In half a year, Zhang Yi experienced the Battle of the Devil's Eye and the war against the Wulwan Empire. King Arthur was not idle either. Atlantis and the vast sea areas near Europe were his hunting grounds. As a top talent, he has been steadily improving his strength. If we meet again, I'm afraid he won't be my opponent. King Arthur had this idea in his mind. Should he go and fight Zhang Yi again to avenge his previous humiliation? But he quickly shook his head. His country is currently facing a huge threat. I'd better not go over and take advantage of it. Besides, his equipment is much better than yours. This is still a problem. Sebastian raised this question pointedly. The corners of King Arthur's mouth curled up. Uncle Sebastian. If it's just equipment, then my trip to Atlantis wasn't without reward. Dear viewers, thanks for staying with me. We'll try to get you more updates. Please like and subscribe and share the video with your friends. Love you all.